YouTube founder community, the Millennium fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about one of the best albums you've never heard, Begin by the Millennium. To do this, we must start off with a guy called Kurt Becher, because without him, this album wouldn't be possible. Let's jump back in time a little bit. Kurt was an incredibly gifted songwriter, producer, arranger, on par with the likes of Brian Wilson. He was part of a successful folk group called the Goldbriars, and when they broke up, he moved to LA. When he got there, he shifted his focus to being behind the scenes and ended up producing The Association, one of the biggest pop groups of the 60s. He produced their first full-length album and goes uncredited with co-writing Along Comes Mary with Tandon Almer. Basically, Tandon had a demo of this track and Kurt heard it and put his magic on it, basically, and gave it to the guys in The Association. And when The Association heard it, they were like, okay, cool, this is the version we want to do. But sadly, Tandon was like, no, I'm getting sole credit for this song, and that's how it worked out. By the end of 1966, the Association cut ties with their producer Dean Fredericks, who then went on to join Kurt with R Productions, which was Kurt's production company. Because of this, Kurt wasn't allowed to work with the Association anymore. Around this time, he also started his own group called The Ballroom, which recorded enough material for a full-length record, but only put out 145 in 1967 under the Warner Brothers label. While producing the song That's the Way It's Gonna Be for Lee Mallory in 1966, Kurt met and befriended Gary Usher. The Gary Usher. Gary was so blown away by Kurt's talents that he bought out Kurt's remaining contract, got him to be a staff producer at Columbia Records, and ended up co-writing the Sagittarius record. Yeah, that record. Gary had these crazy ideas to make this psychedelic, beautiful album, and they did My World Fell Down, one of the coolest songs of the 60s. Because of the success of that single, Columbia was like, hey, do a whole album. Get the band together, do a whole album. There was one problem. There was no band. It was just Kurt and Gary, so they basically had to flesh this thing out, a lot of it by themselves, but a lot of it was session players, and put out this absolutely stunning album, which I have reviewed, which might show up somewhere on the side here. While that album is incredible, sadly it was a commercial flop. It went nowhere. Still though, Columbia Records was super impressed with Kurt and his work and his talent, and when Kurt presented the idea of doing a new album, his own style, his own way, Columbia was like, okay, cool, let's do it. In order to do this, Kurt assembled his dream team of players. He got Lee Mallory, who he produced earlier in 1966, his friend Sandy Salisbury from the Ballroom days, who would go on to become a really successful children's author, Joey Steck, who would later go on to join the Blues Magoos and start the Sonic Past music label, super cool, Michael Finelli, who played electric sitar on the Sagittarius record, who would also later on work with members of the Zombies in the early 70s, and his friend Ron Edgar on drums. Joining them were some incredible LA session musicians at the time, and this whole musical stew became The Millennium. Produced by Keith Olsen, this album became the most expensive album Columbia Records ever made up until that point. Absolutely insane, and Keith would go on to produce basically every artist you can think of under the sun, but this album was the most expensive thing ever made at Columbia Records. Mind-blowing. A couple of singles came out in advance of the record, but didn't do anything on the charts. Begin was the only album put out by the Millennium. It came and went. It was recorded, they had a great time doing it, they never played shows, they never promoted it, went out without a trace. Critically well received, but commercially nowhere to be found. It's incredibly fresh and imaginative. Its desire to explore is palpable, and the hunger that you hear in their performances is delicious on the ears, if you will. It constantly leaves you inspired and creative, so let's finally get to it. Prelude opens up with a chirpy, happy harpsichord refrain and some pounding drums before falling into the sort of cartoony sounding chord progressions of the psychedelic era. But it's got some wonderful resolves, so no matter how far away it might get far out, it always comes back to a comfortable landing. To Claudia on Thursday falls out of Prelude and definitely introduces the record proper, because you get a sense of what these vocals are going to sound like, the sunshine pop production. We can only assume Claudia was Kurt's wife at the time. It's an easy breezy sunny day lyric, a feel-good psychedelic day, letting your hair down, letting the sunshine caress your face. You know, the gentle breeze in your hair, your cares are all melting away. Everything else can go away in the world. Is just you and your special person, and that's it. Musically, it's loaded with really cheery acoustic guitars, splashes of percussion, angelic backing vocals, and an overall infectious optimism. I Just Want to Be Your Friend is almost Birds-like with those guitar lines, but then it feels like slightly bossa nova, which is a cool shift. But then it feels like a song the Association would have loved to have had their hands on. The vocal melody plays effortlessly on top of that dreamy production. What a beautiful combination. The song does begin to take flight and get rockier as it goes, but once it hits that peak, it comes back down to chill again. Such a dynamic little track. It rocks, it rolls, it's got plenty of soul, but it chills when it wants to. What a fun little song. 5 a.m. is a wonderful track full of early morning freshness. How do you feel when the world wakes up? Well, for this song, everything is calm and sweet. No one is on the street and the world is speechless in the morning. What a great line. You can watch the sun wake up all day. I love the non-stop groovy bongos throughout this thing, the playful chimes, the ghostly production on the vocals, the overall quaint vibe of the track. I'm with you. What a tour de force this track is. Holy smokes. Why was this not a monster massive hit single? Literally so many bands would adopt that sound over the next couple of years. Everyone from the Partridge Family to the Fifth Dimension. Dreamy sunshine pop perfection. The level of reverb on the vocals is just like from the gods. There is magic in your eyes when you're near me. What a great line. The acoustic guitar flourishes, the multi-layered background vocals, the warm lead, the sprightly drums. This song truly sounds like magic in a bottle. The Island is a really trippy song, and lyrically, I think it's about finding your own inner utopia, your own happy place. Like, where do you want to go to get away from it all? You go down to Kokomo. Getting away from the prisons we invent for ourselves, being trapped in our own mind, being trapped in the societal norms of, what's expected of us. But like, we're the only ones telling ourselves that we can't do certain things. The Island is that place far away from all the craziness. Where's your happy place? Go there. It's a dreamy, hypnotic song with comforting slide guitars and just enough background noises to keep you interested. Sing to Me is a total turn of events from The Island. This upbeat, horn-driven pop song. You can see this working for Davy Jones like really, really well. It's got some swinging brass punches, xylophones, and the splashiest hi-hats yet. It's just a bright, cheery song that wonderfully fades out to keep that vibe going forever. It's You has all the makings of a hip-hop song, like absolutely hip-hop song. Why isn't this a radio staple? What's up with that? You can almost imagine the 1967 era Hollies doing this, like on Evolution or something. Big, rich, expansive acoustic guitars, super wide drums that are just full of life, and lyrics that take their time to leave the mouths. There's a slightly vaudevillian bridge section, which I think is really far out, but all this is adorned by cool guitar scratches and heavenly, trippy background vocals. I just love the love on this one. It's a very expressive song. You sit there listening to this song with a big, dumb, goofy grin on your face because it's kind of like you feel the affection. And then you look deeper into the song, and it's not a love song at all. It's disguised as a love song. It's about government conspiracies and government censorship and what they want you to see. What? Some Sunny Day has tinges of country with the slide guitars, but the shuffly production keeps it rooted in that sunshine pop. It's a warm combination of ideas and sounds splashing over each other, mixing xylophones with pianos, and the happiest background vocals ever. It won't always be the same as a song, but exactly that. Like, changes will be coming soon enough. I like the bouncy rhythm in the middle of the verses and the exciting chorus. You can hear the optimism in their voices and the belief in their words. Things are happening. Are you paying attention? Those harmonies are just incredible. The Know-It-All is an I Want Candy-esque barrage of tom-tom drums with some growling guitars and almost Halloween-esque vocal moments. It also boasts some of the most expressive trumpet lines on this album. It sounds like literal thunder in moments, and I love the fun they're having on this one. You can feel the excitement. Karmic Dream Sequence #1 has to be the most atmospheric and truly far-out track on the record. It's dreamy, it's experimental, and it really transports you. It blends beautiful soft textures with fascinating chord combinations. It takes its time to grow and develop into something truly unexpected. On an album loaded with left turns, this one drives you off the cliff. There's Nothing More to Say is pretty much an unofficial mission statement from the band, as lyrically one can interpret this as the band saying that, hey, if you listen to our songs, dig our messages, you will be enlightened. It's basically saying, like, look, follow us, dig our messages, and like, there's nothing more to say. This is it. Take it or leave it. This is us. That's the message. The album comes to a close with Begin. The album comes to a close with Anthem, Begin, which is loaded with psychedelic tricks, like backwards tape, creepy vocal effects, scratching sounds, and distortion, before falling into an almost church-like vocal bit that happens sporadically. And it's such a bizarre little way to end the album, a nice little bookend to prelude. This 2008 Sunday's release has the single that came out after this album came out, the last songs from the group, the A-side and B-side, Blight and Just About the Same. Blight features some really expressive percussive elements and the shuffly hi-hats, loads of group vocals to punctuate the lyrics they really belt out. The song itself is sort of vaudevillian in its delivery again, with some scat singing. And then the brushes on the snare are kind of cartoony, but I like the cymbal grabs, and it's kind of a fun little song. And then this particular CD ending with just about the same, I think is the perfect way to do that. It's just got some wonderful harmonies, rubbery bass, a happy tambourine, a confident lead vocal. It's an easy breezy song that bounces along with an air of wisdom about togetherness. I love the almost minimalist instrumentation on this one too. There really isn't much going on outside of the group vocal before ending with a la 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 chorus, and then it's just gone. The Millennium have left the building. The Millennium really did begin, and then they left. No tour ever happened, no shows were played, no interviews were given, no TV appearances happened. This beautiful album came and went without a trace. It was critically well received, but barely sold and never charted. For as much money as was spent on this beautiful project, you would think that Columbia Records in their marketing department would have been like, hey, we put a ton of money recording this thing. Let's get some ROI, return of investment. Like, let's get some sales happening to make up for how much we put into this thing, because, like, obviously we're interested. We like what Kurt's doing. Let's see something come back in the back end here. You would have thought they would have gotten creative. Like, okay, the guys don't want to tour. Okay, we can figure out something else. All right, well, we're putting out some ads and magazines. That's all right, but what else can we do? Can we make TV commercials? Like, what else can we do? Like, come on. Like, why spend so much money on this album just for it to go nowhere and not try hard enough to promote it? It's one of the many mysteries surrounding one of the most mysterious albums of all time. Begin is a perfect title because it's so open-ended. It leaves the door open. It leaves the door open to imagination. It makes you crave more. Like, what could have been if this album was promoted properly? Even still, in its basically relatively unknown status, it's a thing of beauty. A dream world where all the band members get to live, work, and play. A soundscape unbothered by trends or money. Just art for the sake of art. The Millennium were here for a brief moment. Just enough for their work to live on forever. There will always be a begin for this band because someone's going to discover this music for the first time and absolutely adore it and fall in love with it. And people will be discovering this thing forever. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the message. This is our music. This was a moment in time. This wasn't supposed to last forever. We're going to be known well into the new millennium. This little piece of work. With all that being said, 10 out of 10. I love this album. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's expertly played. It's imaginative. It's playful. You fall in love with the harmonies and the experimentation and the devotion to the art. It's truly one of the most impressive records I've ever heard, and easily one of the most unknown albums of the 60s. Yeah, there's definitely a group of people that love and adore this thing and talk about it all the time, but on the wider scale of things, how often do the Millennium come up in conversations? Never! So here's the back cover. Nice shot of the group. And the CD itself. Again, this is the 2008 Sundays release. The record is in stereo, except for the last two songs, the single Blight and Just About the Same are in mono. And I cannot recommend this album enough. If you're looking for the most beautiful, intricate, well-presented sunshine pop you'll ever hear, that's also very experimental and definitely psychedelic influence. It's not just candy corn for the sake of being sugary sweet. There's a lot of depth on this thing as well. Lyrically, it touches everything from anti-war sentiments to government conspiracies to love songs. And it's one of the most impressive pieces of music I've ever heard. So if you've never heard this record before, give it a stream, look for the CD, or look for the original copy on vinyl. That's my next goal, is to find one of these things on vinyl, which will be probably close to impossible and very expensive. But until then, my name is Giggens. 10 out of 10 for the Millennium. One of the best albums ever made, hands down. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Happy to chat about it with you guys. And thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.